I just wanted to take a very brief moment to give you a quick introduction into Visual, just in case you're not fully aware of who we are and what we do. So Visual are a pure play Microsoft Gold partner. And what does that mean? Well, it makes us unique amongst the Microsoft partner community in that we only provide consulting and managed services in support of Microsoft products and solutions. We've got no interest whatsoever in third-party solutions, which means that you can be sure that our only focus is to leverage maximum value from your investment in Microsoft technologies. Bear with me. We are a Tier 1 Microsoft platform partner, which means we cover everything with the exception of Dynamics AX, GP and NAV. We're a Tier 1 smart teaming partner, and this year alone we've delivered in excess of £1 million worth of services on behalf of Microsoft. We've recently headline sponsored Future Decoded for the second year running, and we are incredibly proud to have this year been named Microsoft UK Country Partner of the Year in what is only our 10th year of trading. So hopefully this demonstrates to you the depth and capabilities that we have and why Microsoft view us very much as a trusted pair of hands. In terms of our business and how we're structured, we've got three distinct divisions, which are our business consultancy, our technical consultancy, and our managed services. Our business group will lift the conversation away from products and focus on how we can provide transformational change at scale, helping you, our customers, achieve your business objectives by using Microsoft technologies. This is where you'll find our strategic consultants, our engagement managers, project managers, and our architects. Technical consulting is now split into 5 practice areas, and those are our business productivity group, which would include the likes of SharePoint and Office 365, UC and messaging, which is where you can find Corey and Mark, and that would be looking at things like Skype for Business, Exchange, and Office 365. Cloud infrastructure would cover the likes of the System Center suite of products, Direct Access, Active Directory. Application development, and the newest of our practices, which is dedicated to CRM. All of our consultants are specialists in their chosen fields. We don't employ any generalists, which is why we are viewed today very much as a technical powerhouse in the marketplace. With regards to our application development practice, I just briefly want to mention a suite of apps which we developed and optimized for use in Office 365. We've called this suite Minerva 365, and it contains a room booking and facilities management application, a rating and review mobile application for field-based employees, very similar to TripAdvisor, a corporate URL shortener, a SharePoint-based HR solution, and a case management solution which reports directly into CRM and SharePoint. And if that's of interest to you and you'd like any more information, please send an email to inquiries@visual.com and one of our account managers will be in touch. Last and definitely not least are Visual's managed services, where our consultancy engagement is designed to help you design, plan, build, test and deploy. Our managed services solutions, be it on-premise, in the cloud or a hybrid solution, can provide proactive or reactive support to monitor, optimize and manage your investment in Microsoft. In the case of Skype for Business, how are you going to ensure that your line of business applications remain up and available when deploying new technology? How are you going to address the potential skills gap internally when implementing new services and consuming evergreen Microsoft solutions? We're able to provide a range of services to address these needs, ensuring that you're fully supported by dedicated UK-based Microsoft accredited engineers. And at Visual, we strongly believe that IT should be seen as an enabler for your business transformation. And we've got 3 customer-ready strategies designed to deliver business transformation against business objectives and putting IT at the heart of positive change. The first of these is our connected business strategy, which focuses on how you engage with your customers, ensuring that you have the right information on the right device at the right time, importantly to make the right decision. And a great example of this is an operational intelligence application we've implemented for Scottish Fire and Rescue, where we provide faster time to insight, and we're transforming the way that the fire service utilise data, helping them to achieve their objective of saving more lives. And using computer strategy ensures that your workforce is empowered by considering the tools required as part of an individual's day-to-day role. So, for example, we may need to consider the use of smartphones, tablet PCs and laptops. Could we reduce the associated costs by providing and implementing solutions such as Skype for Business, which would provide flexible and mobile working solutions in communication and collaboration? Essentially, we're looking at mobilisation of the workforce, but in a secure way. And finally, we have our optimised service vision, which is an enhancement of infrastructure, operations and process. We would consider whether cloud, hybrid or on-premise is best for you and look to optimise your infrastructure accordingly, finding the most efficient delivery models for your business applications. And we've actually recently saved one of our customers millions of pounds a year by moving them out of what was a typical outsource agreement and delivering their IT applications in the cloud, fully supported by a visual managed service. So that's it from me. I hope that's a very brief introduction to who we are and what we do. I'm now going to pass you across to Mark, who's going to kick off the main body of the presentation.
Thanks, Ian. Hello, everyone. So today we're going to be talking about what Cloud PBX is, how it can integrate with your Skype business deployment, and what E5 means to you, because we all know that Microsoft is going to be launching E5 on Tuesday, and with that comes the much anticipated Cloud PBX platform. So what is it? Well, in simple terms, it really is a telephony solution hosted in Microsoft Office 365. There are a couple of roadmaps which we'll come on to later that we can choose to deploy this. One is a cloud-only model, one is a hybrid model. Just bear with me a second. So there's going to be two offerings: Cloud PBX with PSTN calling service, which is the hosted model, and Cloud PBX with on-premise PSTN calling, which is the hybrid voice model. Currently, Cloud PBX is in production use at Microsoft for all 26,000 of their employees. Hopefully, come Tuesday, Cloud PBX might be released to the entire world. So what's the vision for Microsoft to drive Cloud PBX? Well, we all know that they tried to do hybrid voice a couple of years ago, and they come across a few challenges, so they dropped it off the radar. But now it's come back, and it'll come back with a vengeance. They've redesigned the framework, they've redesigned the networks, and now they're offering the network connections such as Microsoft Express Route that allow us to get over the quality issues that we were having with the traditional hybrid voice. Moving into the cloud means that you have no further investment, or may need to have less investment on on-premise infrastructure. You can scale out, scale up as much as you want. You don't have to worry about whether you've got sufficient capacity to host new servers or new users. All you need to do is ensure that you've got sufficient network bandwidth to Office 365, and Microsoft will do the rest. So, one second. So what's coming from day one is simple call control with a view of reaching feature parity with Skype for Business on-premise deployment by 2017. So, Cloud PBX Roadmap 1, which I'll pass you over to Corey, who will talk to you through that.
Good morning, everyone. So as Mark said, we've got Cloud PBX coming. E5 is due to be launched December the 1st. So pretty much exciting times for the Skype for Business. So what that means to Skype for Business is pretty much, as Mark said, the core control is now going to be introduced into Office 365. So at the moment, as it stands, globally, the only options that we have for telephony are the on-premise deployments. If we consume Skype for Business Online from Office 365, then we're limited to the unified communications being peer-to-peer calling via Link and Skype for Business. Now, at the moment, everything that we're going to talk about today, it's important to point out that everything is in preview. So at the end of this, there will be some go-to actions, and we will instruct you on how you can sign up your Office 365 tenant to the preview program, because one thing that we would advise is that it is a very busy preview program, so get your tenants signed up as soon as possible to make sure that you don't miss out on the opportunity. Now, as Mark said, with Cloud PBX, there's two offerings. Now, the latter offering breaks down further into more additional offerings, but the first one that I'll kick off with is basically what we call Cloud PBX with PSTN calling. Now, Cloud PBX with PSTN calling is Microsoft's offering of your telephony solution entirely hosted in the cloud. So there aren't going to be any on-premise PBX dependencies, and it basically allows you to subscribe to calling plans delivered directly from Microsoft. Now, again, it's important to point out, and we'll do this throughout the entire webcast, that these programs are in preview. Now, the service that I'm talking about at the moment is also limited to the US. So the calling plans that Microsoft have made available are domestic calling plan and a domestic and international calling plan. So for the US citizens, the domestic calling plan covers all US states at the moment, and we can imagine something similar coming into the international rollouts per country as and when that is released. And then with each of those calling plans, once you enable a user with the calling plan and assign the appropriate license, the Skype for Business voicemail platform will also be introduced to that user as well. So at the moment, as it stands with Skype for Business, to leverage voicemail, we leverage Exchange Unified Messaging. Microsoft have actually scaled out a new voicemail platform leveraging the compute and memory resource powers from Azure, and basically we'll now leverage that as our voicemail platform. Now, as it stands, the information on here is subject to change with the release of E5 coming shortly, but as it stands, to enable a user for the PBX PSTN calling service, you basically add a calling plan to an E5 user, or we add a calling plan as well as a Cloud PBX license to an E3 user. Now, again, with regards to the licensing and how we achieve these things, it's always best to confirm with your account manager where you are at the moment and what's required to fill in the gaps to take you to where you'd like to go. So that's one thing that we can definitely support you on. In terms of costs and how these things are going to be billed, at the moment, it stands as though it's going to be basically calling plans that are assigned to the users, but then the plan minutes are actually going to be pulled at the tenant level. So this is going to drive efficiency and the best usage of those minutes for organizations. And then, as it says on the slides, for those kind of calls that are going to be out of plan, Microsoft are looking at a prepaid credit service that user organizations can obtain. So with regards to the PSTN calling service, how does it actually work? So let's assume that you've signed up a new Office 365 tenant, you've now got Skype for Business online, it's a US tenant, and you now want to leverage the calling service. So what your administrators are basically going to have to do is search the actual Office 365 portal for these new telephony numbers, and then that can be done on a single number basis on an entire range. It's all subject to the region that you're actually procuring the numbers from and the location that your tenant is based in. Well, basically, numbers are procured directly from the Office 365 portal. Now, it's also important to point out that you can maintain your existing identity. So for organizations, acquiring new telephone numbers is not going to be something that is not going to be a decision that's taken lightly. So Microsoft have recognized this, and they are providing you with the ability to port your existing numbers over to the service. Now, in the preview UI, as it says on the slide, you can see there, when you select your new numbers, you define your state, define your city, define the quantity, and then select your numbers from there. Now, to begin with, there are going to be some admin usage reports. So we're going to get reports on the last 90-day usage, and then the ability to export those to a CSV as well. Some of the fields that you can see on the slide there are going to be the fields that are included in your reports. And the one that I like to definitely call out is the fact that we're now going to be able to report based on call duration, currency, and call charge, which effectively removes the need for us to look at some of the additional billing platforms that are required when you're looking at this from an on-premise perspective. Now, some of the deployment options that you've got with the Cloud PBX PSTN calling are, so if you have an existing Skype for Business deployment on-premise, then there's nothing wrong with implementing a hybrid scenario, moving your users to the cloud and having that user consume cloud-only PBX services. So that user's core control will not reside on premise. Cloud PBX users, again, must be moved online, so no on-premise users if you want to use the PSTN calling, or you can use the Skype for Business online-only deployment. So basically, Microsoft are recognizing the fact that deployments are going to be out there, and they're giving you that transition path to the cloud by leveraging the hybrid scenarios. It's important to point out, though, if you're cloud PBX only with no on-premise PBX dependencies, then of course there's not going to be any integration or support for any integration with your existing PBXs, video teleconferencing systems, or any other endpoints, let's say fax and other analog lines, etc. And there's not going to be any, it's a big point, there's not going to be any integration at the moment with call centers. So hybrid scenario is where we're seeing the larger organizations maybe adopt the service to begin with, where small pockets of organizations or say new acquisitions and new sites, etc., we'd see typically being planned to spin up on the PSTN calling service. So from a number porting perspective, because I can appreciate that this is going to be a significant point for a majority of organizations, if you're requesting less than 1,000 numbers to be ported, then you can actually do that through the Office 365 portal or by using PowerShell. Now, if you're requesting 1,000 or more, then you actually do have to raise a support service request via the support portal, and Microsoft will work with you to actually to control that number porting process. Now, if you've ever ported any numbers before, then you'll be familiar with the kind of information that's required. So your account info for your current carrier, a recent bill and invoice, and then your existing carrier will also provide you with a PIN, so we'll block the numbers. And then when the carrier relationship was originally set up, you might have specified existing authorized personnel and address details that must be supplied. So just making sure that you've got all of that information to hand before you start the number porting process just means that it moves smoothly and quickly as possible. Now, when it comes to porting, you've got again, because we're leveraging things like hybrid deployments, we might want to say, for example, dip our toe in the water and trial out these services. So it is actually possible to support selective numbers. So if you want to port a single DDI, then yeah, let's definitely do that. If you want to port a block of DDIs, then we can definitely do that. And also, if you're ready to take the jump, we can definitely port an entire range. It's important to note that you can also specify the date and time for that transfer, so it definitely fits in line with the whole build, design and operate deployment phases, so we can actually plan it accordingly and make sure that number porting takes place at an appropriate time. In terms of the roadmap, so the first point, and I think it's the most significant point, is the fact that, of course, as I said, the PSTN calling is US only at the moment. So for the calendar year 2016, we're going to start to look at an international expansion of this service. Prepaid credits and new ways to search for your numbers are things that Microsoft are looking at, as well as introducing improved and updated calling reports, more control over your voice policies. So anybody with an on-premise Skype for Business deployment as it stands will know you've got a significant amount of control over the voice policies. Microsoft at the moment have defined these voice policies, but then we are looking to introduce more policies to that plan, and the same would apply for tenant dial plans. As we perform that international expansion, the dial plans are going to have to increase, and we are going to have to account for multinational organisations and the likes. So in summary, what I've just discussed there is basically Microsoft's first offering, the Cloud PBX with PSTN calling. It is supported in a hybrid deployment, but essentially all core control is now moved to the cloud. So in hybrid deployments, it's going to be your online users that retrieve this service. Again, it's US only as it stands. It's in preview, but just keep an eye on the blogs, and we'll be sure to keep you updated as and when those previews start to expand. So what I'll do now is just hand over to Mark, who will talk through the other option being Cloud PBX, retaining existing on-premise PSTN connectivity.
Thanks, Corey. So the other option, as Corey just mentioned, is that we can leverage the existing investments that you've got with your on-premise PSTN PBX connectivity and Skype for Business, all linked 2013, as it were. What this allows you to do is continue your relationship with your existing telephone provider. Perhaps you've got an agreed price plan that you pay for minutes, Perhaps you've got some free minutes that you use, and this could be potentially cheaper than using Microsoft Minutes through Cloud PBX. So Microsoft recognise this, and therefore they are happy for you to home your users in Skype for Business Online and use enterprise voice via your on-premise PSTN. The transition path to cloud-based PSTN calling, like we touched on before, we've got two uses. So users will be homed in the cloud. They will be registered to Skype for Business Online on your Office 365 tenant. And then when they want to make a phone call to the PSTN or to a user, what will happen is the voice traffic will get directed down to your on-premise edge servers and routed out through your mediation and PBX gateway. It's important to note that it doesn't work the other way around, so that any users who are homed on your on-premise link or Skype for Business deployment, they can't use the PSTN calling services in Office 365. So when we talk about hybrid voice, it's one way. So Skype for Business Online users can use on-premise, but Skype for Business on-premise users can't use Cloud PBX with PSTN calling.
I think an important point to make on that slide as well is also it's very true for where we are at the moment. So Cloud PBX with PSTN calling is US only. So you can see that second point on the slide. This is actually a topology that can be used where Microsoft are not offering their native PSTN service at the moment. So for example, in the UK, we can't use the native PSTN calling service. So the offerings that Mark's about to discuss now are kind of applicable to us. So again, Microsoft aren't going to be able to reach every single location on the globe. So if it is a location that we can't just reach yet, then there are still options for us to get us onto the Cloud PBX.
Okay, so the deployment options here that we've got for Cloud PBX on-premise PSTN is that obviously Skype for Business native is supported, Link 2013 is supported. If you've got Link 2010 deployment, then we must have Skype for Business Edge or Link 2013 Edge servers, and those must go to a Link 2013 front end as the next hop. Active Directory, AAD Connect, directory synchronization with ADFS and single sign-on. That's a prerequisite and required for any hybrid connectivity, and it's the same for hybrid voice as well. If you haven't got Skype for Business on-premise, then Microsoft have released Cloud Connector Edition, which is a lightweight version of the Skype for Business topology, which we'll come on to in a bit more detail in a second. And again, cloud users can use on-premise PSTN, but on-premise users can't. So a quick diagram on how it works with if you've got Skype for Business deployment already. You can see that we've got users homed in the cloud, we've got users homed on-premise. So users homed in the cloud would go to Office 365 for the connection to Skype for Business, and that connection would then be routed down to your edge servers via Microsoft Express route. It's not a mandatory requirement, but it's highly recommended. You can do it over the normal internet. However, the difference being is that we can't assign any quality of service policies to the internet. So if you're considering enterprise voice in the cloud for hybrid voice, then we strongly recommend that you consider Microsoft Express route. Cloud Connector Edition is going to be a series of virtual machines, and these are going to be a mediation server, and a CMS server, and an edge server. Each Cloud Connector Edition topology can support up to 500 simultaneous PSTN calls, so that doesn't include peer-to-peer audio calls or video. You can have multiple CCEs for resiliency and for scale out if that doesn't meet your requirements. The Cloud Connector Edition, it sits between Cloud PBX and your on-premise PBX gateway, much the same as a full Skype for Business on-premise deployment would in hybrid. So the technical requirements for Cloud Connector Edition is that they're going to be virtual machines that are pre-packaged by Microsoft that you can download. and these virtual machines are supported on Hyper-V only at the moment. There'll be a series of scripts that will need to be run in order to bring these services online, and it takes control over the Hyper-V hypervisor to create the networks and connectivity automatically for you. The CMS and mediation virtual machines can be hosted on the same hypervisor, but the edge server should be hosted on a separate hypervisor in your DMZ, much the same as your Skype for Business edge servers are right now. So if you've got a Skype for Business deployment, the topology and the setup is almost the same. Obviously, if you haven't already had a link or Skype for Business on premise before, then in order to migrate your users into Office 365, we're going to need to run Active Directory, Forest, and Domain preparation. There are a few additional DNS records that we need to add that are new to this topology. And essentially, these are just renamed Edge Access Service, Web Conference, and AV public IP, public routes and IPs. They're just named differently, and we still require a public SSL certificate on your external Edge server, and we still require an internal CA for signing the mediation, CMS, and internal Edge interfaces. So how does Cloud Connector Edition look like? Well, much the same to Skype for Business on-premise deployment in some respects, but you can see it's a much thinned out role. Users again will be homed in the cloud and connect to the Cloud Connector Edition Edge service via Express route again. And then the mediation server can be connected to your legacy PBX if it's supported directly. If your PBX is not supported for Skype for Business, then you could consider a session border controller in between your legacy PBX and the mediation service, such as Sonos SBC, and then break out to the PSTN. So this is a new service, it's in preview, and there's going to be a number of features added along the way, but from day one there are a few limitations. So Skype for Business users online, they can't use media bypass, can't use response groups in the cloud, or they can't be added to response groups on your Skype for Business on-premise deployment. There's no call park, call via work, or remote call control. No private line. Some people might use that. That's a secondary line that you can have assigned to your client that only a select few people can know. When we say no voice resiliency, obviously users are going to be homed in the cloud, and if your connectivity to Office 365, whether it be via Express route or the internet, goes down, then you will lose your enterprise voice functionality for your Office, for your Skype for Business Online users. At the minute, there's no integration with on-premise contact centers or trusted application servers, although for a contact center, we do have a workaround for one particular brand at the moment, which I won't go into too much detail with, but it can be done. So, transitioning server to Cloud PBX, obviously there's going to be a migration path. There's going to be some considerations, some prerequisites, some checks that you're going to need to perform, and Corey will talk to you through that right now.
So yeah, so to get from, well, what this table effectively summarizes is where your PSTN connectivity resides. So again, all of this information will be made available to you after this. So if there's more specific scenarios that you'd like to talk through, then by all means get in touch and we can definitely help you out there. But let's talk through a couple of those lines though. So if you have your PSTN connectivity on premise and the users are homed on premise, which effectively is a Skype for Business server deployment, then what you're going to want to do is obtain an Office 365 tenant, migrate your users to the online service, and then implement a hybrid voice scenario, which effectively will bring you and ready you for that Cloud PBX transition. Now, if your PSTN connectivity is on premise, although your users are homed online, then again, that's a hybrid voice scenario. But then if you're not running any existing Skype for Business, then Cloud Connector Edition is what you'd look to do, what you'd look to implement. And we have had one question on that. So if your PSTN connectivity is delivered through Office 365, then limited to the US only. If your user is homed online, then we've got the option for PSTN calling or hybrid voice. Now in the UK, we are limited to hybrid voice there, and we would be set to use the Cloud PBX with on-premise PSTN. Now if you've got a greenfield site, then it's a case of obtaining your tenant, migrating all users to your cloud, and importing your DDIs across. And then finally, if your PSTN connectivity is in Office 365, your user is homed on premise, then we're not going to be supporting that topology, that deployment topology. For a summary, from a feature set perspective, now as you can see on the left, from a server perspective, we are supporting everything. So we are a true enterprise voice, enterprise grade ready PBX platform. Now again, if for larger organizations that may be running, say, third-party applications or analog lines, contact center kind of applications, then Cloud PBX with on-premise PSTN connectivity is going to be what you're going to want to achieve and deploy, because it's mainly that support for the on-premise PBX integration and that voice resiliency that you're going to get. But to call out some of the features that aren't supported, so location-based routing and things like call admission control aren't supported in those scenarios. And again, Cloud PBX PSTN calling, it is giving us the call control capabilities at the moment, but you can see that some of the functionality, some of it isn't applicable. So for example, branch survivability. From a server perspective, we really have to consider our branch sites. Now, from an Office 365 perspective, it changes the design and planning discussion, because if the branch is connected to the internet, then effectively we are no longer a branch site. And the same would apply to things like location-based routing and call admission control, etc. And again, just to finish off on some of those features, again, everything is supported in server. Number porting, it's handled in a slightly separate way with server, but we're concentrating on Cloud PBX for the moment. So from an IP phone perspective, we are initially going to support the VVX range of devices. Now, the Polycom CX range are planned for support at a later date, but initially we are supporting only the VVX ranges. And then as you can see, the analog devices and common area phones, they are only supported in server and Cloud PBX with on-premise PSTN, because we have to leverage our on-premise deployment to realize those features. Now the biggest question for all of this is the network ready? Now, I'm sure you can appreciate when you're looking at a unified communications deployment, the network assessments and ensuring that your network is ready to actually support this kind of traffic is crucial. And that takes itself one step further when we're starting to look at implementing our corporate telephony solutions over an Office 365 connection. So the quick answer, as you can see on the slide, then if unless you have Office 365, then we can't really say that you're ready, because the internet it's not the World Wide Web, it's more of the Wild Wild West. So we don't have any control over our quality of service. We're not able to, as Mark said, we're not able to apply those DSCP markings and then have them adhered over the internet. So what Microsoft have done, and it is a pretty huge effort, they've actually implemented the Global Real-Time Media Network, and that is what Skype for Business Online and Corporate Telephony, Cloud PBX is actually going to use. And that global real-time media network built on Azure actually is able to adhere to those DSCP markings. Therefore, we are now able to effectively have a managed connection from our site up into the Office 365 cloud. So in summary, if you want Cloud PBX, then what we would suggest is that Express Route indirectly makes itself mandatory, because we would advise strongly against implementing a scenario where your Cloud PBX and corporate telephony is traversing the internet, because you're just not going to get the best experience with regards to call quality and the end user experience. And that, in summary, brings us to a close on the presentation. Now, we have got some time for questions, but again, what I wanted to do was just quickly talk through a summary of the options. So with Office 365 E5 being introduced on the 1st of December, we've got the introduction of Cloud PBX. So Cloud PBX comes in two forms. We've got Cloud PBX with PSTN calling. So Cloud PBX with PSTN calling is very suitable for maybe smaller organizations or smaller sites that are being brought on side with into a larger organization, but it has no on-premise PBX dependencies and effectively is moving your call control into the cloud and allows you to maintain your existing numbers by porting them across to the service. Skype for Business on-premise with PSTN connectivity, That is our second offering, and then that offering further breaks down into two, and that's dependent upon whether you have Skype for Business or Link Server 2013 deployed, or whether you don't. If you have it deployed, then we are going to look at a hybrid voice scenario where your users are homed online, although call flow and call control is all managed via the on-premise deployment. And if you do not have an on-premise deployment, then we are looking at the Cloud Connector Edition, which effectively is a small virtual machine appliance that will be deployed on-premise. As Mark said, comes with mediation, CMS, and the edge server roles. And then that will allow us to tap into a supported SBC or IP PBX and allow us to retain our existing on-premise PSTN connectivity while using Cloud PBX and homing our users on Office 365. So I'll hand over to Ian now just to wrap up the call, but please, by all means, if you do have any questions, then get them posted into the Q&A session, and myself and Mark will start to work through those questions now. And then for those that maybe want a more one-to-one conversation, or if you'd like to talk through a more specific scenario, then by all means reach out to the guys in the UC team, and we'll definitely be able to get the right answers across to you. But thanks for your time, and yeah, we really appreciate you joining.
Thanks, Corey. Thanks, Mark. So I think we are now going to take everybody off mute. And as Corey said, we've got the Q&A session up as well in Skype for Business. So if you do have any questions, we've got about 10 or 15 minutes now. And it's available for you guys to pick the brains of our consultants here and really make sure you get the best use out of this webcast. So there's no need to be shy, guys. If you do have any questions, please feel free to speak up. I think we've got a couple of questions coming through here on Q&A. So Corey and Mark are available, and they'll ping replies back to you all, depending what the question is, obviously, and the detail required. You can also drop us an email to inquiries@visual.com. And your relevant account manager or specialist can get back in touch, and we can set up a call to have a more detailed conversation if required. But as I say, we've got about 10 minutes, so please feel free to drop us any questions or speak up if you do need any further assistance.
For those that may be wondering, if you are looking for the Q&A tab, if you focus your eyes on the content section, you'll see two tabs for presentation and Q&A. The presentation just allows you to view the PowerPoint deck, and then the Q&A allows you to answer any questions on there. So we've also opened up the instant messaging conversation window, so feel free to use that as well if you need to. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, hi. It's Nitin here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Ah, brilliant. Yeah, I've just posted a question. Basically, the question I had was, if we went for a hybrid scenario and where we've got CUCM, the Cisco offering, would that actually, using the mediation server and the CCE, would that allow for directory synchronization as well, for people to look up other people on two different platforms?
Essentially, what you'd have to do is leverage your Active Directory telephone fields for that to happen.
Yeah.
It wouldn't pick up the directory if it was hosted within your CUCM.
Okay. Okay, so it'd have to be AD then.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. So effectively, the whole point of the hybrid is purely just to use the PSTN, really, just to get a gateway through to the PSTN, isn't it? More than actually talking to any on-prem third-party systems.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Spot on, mate. Spot
Yeah.
on.
Okay.
We're seeing the Cloud PBX with on-premise PSTN really as the transition path. So hopefully you would have seen that from the feature set that's being offered at the moment, the PSTN calling service it's there. You are able to make and take calls, etc. But there are big gaps. So things like call center, etc., and contact center applications. So for those organizations that maybe have those appliances in place, the on-premise PSTN connectivity is the way to go, kind of thing. And then just to take that one step further, if you don't have Skype for Business, then we can still support that kind of topology as well. So Cloud Connector Edition into your existing PBX estate, as you rightfully said.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, it's just that, I mean, because it's a fairly large organisation where we've got a number of users, approximately 30,000 plus. It was really how that would work out, because what we'd end up wanting to do is probably a stage scenario where we're obviously using a hybrid of some sort, purely because we're Cisco-based in-house at the moment. It would really mean how we would sort of, in that transition period, how users would be able to interact with each other on different systems, really. I was just thinking of that piece.
So how about why don't we take it offline? Maybe if you contact your account manager, we can definitely set up a more bespoke pre-sales call with yourself just to talk through some of the ins and outs of this and some of the gotchas based on the information that we have at the moment. Would that be of interest?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that'll be fine. I mean, the thing is it's purely high level at the moment anyway, and I think it's a system that we're definitely obviously interested in when it does come over to the UK, and we can play around with. I mean, we've got a dev environment, so I'll probably look to get that set up and trial it there really, and then see how we move on before we put anything in production. So yeah, that'd be really, really interesting actually.
Sounds good. Well, one thing that I would definitely suggest is that with the Skype preview program, because they are really busy programs at the moment, the best thing to do will be to jump onto the preview website and sign your tenant up to the preview. Microsoft will then reach out to you and confirm when you've actually been accepted onto the program. But there are several programs that you basically select a tick box in there, and that will allow you to activate that program feature for your tenant.
Okay. Okay, and will you provide the URLs of where I need to go to do that?
That's something that we'll do. So what we'll do is we'll follow up with a link to the recording of this slide, and then we'll also include just a simple Word document that details how you actually sign your preview tenant up to the program. But off the top of my head, it is SkypePreviewPrograms.com, and then from there you just sign up through there. And you basically, at the moment, you've got the PSTN offerings, you've got the PSTN dialing conferencing options. You've got the Cloud PBX options, and then you've also got the Android Preview mobility options as well. So there are several options that we haven't discussed on here because it's been focused more around the Cloud PBX. But yeah, I definitely recommend that. But we will follow up with that information as we send the recording link out as well.
That's great, brilliant. Thanks for all your help.
No problem. Happy to help, mate. If there's any more questions, like I said, just feed them either through to myself or Mark or through your account manager, and we'll definitely, if we can't answer the question now, because of course the programs are in preview, then as soon as the information is released, then we'll definitely get that out to you from there, mate.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks for your time.
All right. Cheers. Bye.
So I can see we've still got a fair few people on the line. If you have got any more questions, please feel free to ping us in the Q&A session, or an IM, or an email, or you can speak up now while we've got the guys. We've still got 5 or so minutes available, so please do shout up. We're here to help where we can. We are still answering just a couple of questions here, guys. So if you do have anything else, please drop us a quick call or Q&A message, and we'll do our best to get back to you, but we are literally now just a couple of minutes away from closing down the webcast.
Hi there. I'm just after a copy of the slide deck because I missed most of the presentation. I got caught up with other stuff.
Yeah, no problem. So we'll send a follow-up email out once we finish the recording. We'll send you a full recording of the webcast, which
Excellent.
Our deck.
Also, the conference, the webcast is being recorded, so it'll be on YouTube later.
Brilliant. Fantastic. So you won't be repeating it. You won't need to. Excellent. Thanks for that.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much for attending today. We do appreciate your attendance at our webcasts, and we'll be sure to update you all as to future events as and when they become available. So thanks again, and hopefully speak to you all again soon.